rehabilitate libraries, and the city and the state even have not really provided it for them. But
Can we get HOPO to fund it?
the money, the problem is the money would go to the city, not the state. Wouldn't go to the libraries, it would go to the city, and the city would probably spend it on some of the big ideas that have been expressed in the last year.
Right, so here's the problem, right? Eric Adams came up to Albany last year. It's called Tin Cup Tuesday. Tin Cup, like begging, right? Here, my tin cup, can you put money in here? He asked for $120 billion last year. I had him in front of me. Bill had him in front of him. And I asked him, what are you spending this money on? You spend $750 a day per person, per homeless person, per day. $750. I said, it doesn't cost me $22,000 a month to raise my family and pay for my house, but you spend $22,000 a month on each homeless person. I said, why don't you just give them $6,000 a month and let them be on their own? Because you know why? Because that other $17,000 is going somewhere else. Right? Into somebody's pocket, into a company's, corporation's pocket. I'm going to stop short of saying corruption, right? But so there's our dilemma. We can tell the city, okay, we'll give you $135 billion this year. We'll approve this budget, right? $250 billion for the state, $130 billion goes to New York City, and then once they get that money, it disappears. It goes everywhere except for where it should be going. This year, right? They shorted foundation aid, the enrichment programs in the schools by $54 million. Right? Where did that $54 million go? I don't know where it went. I think I have an idea. It went to helping the migrants. But those are our enrichment programs that for our kids, the after school, the music, the art, that makes the kids love to go to school, and we need that. And they shorted that, and I was very unhappy. I voted no on the budget. By the way, let's take a quick survey. Who likes this idea of them putting the affordable housing building over there and taking the parking lot away? Anybody? Okay. Who is good with the idea of, let's say, 6 stories instead of 13? Anybody? Who likes the idea of just leaving it just the way it is? Okay. All right, who wants to speak? Go like this.
My son works for the library. He started at Utrecht, now he's at Kensington Branch. And going forward, they're going to keep doing this. This is what the library wants. They already have two libraries with the housing, and they like it. And they're going to continue, so this is not going to stop.
The difference, though, is we, the people. If we can express our views very strongly, and that's what we may have to do, if they don't come up with a plan that deals with our concerns and our problems, then we're going to oppose it. And I don't think they really want to get into a big fight with a community that is strong in opposing it. So, that may be our, ace up our sleeve.
Okay, so, of course we wouldn't want to have this. Nobody wants this. But they're hell-bent on doing it seems like. So for number one, to address the zoning, this area is way not zoned for any kind of a 11-story. It's crazy. And there's houses that are 4 stories that they would never see the light of day, like you were saying.
Closer.
Number one. Now, also, parking. Parking is a problem right now. Right now in the community, it's a problem. People's driveways are always being blocked by people running to the stores and everything. You put something like that there with all these, like, I don't know how many families, that's just ridiculous.
It'd be anywhere from 75 to 300.
Well, that's crazy, because...
And each one has more than one car.
Right, so we definitely, you can't take away the whole parking lot. That's just crazy.
I did tell him to go back to the drawing board last time. I said, how can you take away these parking spaces, add all these apartments with cars, and not account for the additional parking that is required? I said, go back to the drawing board and show me something nicer with parking.
And smaller.
And it can be done. It's not impossible. I mean, you can have parking in the first floor of the building. You can have it in the basement too.
They just put in electrical, pumps for the they're just going to tear that out. They spend like a couple of dollars. How much?
Well, that's if they have their plan.
That's sinful to do that without money, our tax money.
People have made a suggestion that the building leave most of the parking alone, and then it go as a separate building, and it not be as high. They can't go as high, but they can go,
That's a compromise.
that's a possibility.
It is a
But
compromise.
we have to demand those things.
Yeah.
Because they're not gonna come up with it themselves. They would like a 13-story building with no parking. That's what they would like if they could get it. We made sure they can't get that.
Well, how can a library function with so many families living above them?
Exactly.
How can it have
That's what you
capacity?
said earlier.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that's just a few issues.
So these are the things we have to, push very hard and get them to start
Next.
paying attention to it.
Oh, wait a minute, I think this young lady here was, wanting to speak. Oh, you already spoke.
Spoke, yes, she spoke.
Personally, I'm personally okay with adding additional housing if needed. First question I have is, have they told you why? Why do they need to add housing here? Other than the library, funding the library.
We all know that New York City is crowded. We get it.
Yeah.
There's families living together. There's tiny apartments where there's 4 or 5 people living in there in a 1-bedroom. We get it. We need room. We need space. It's a big city.
Do they have statistics to show us that we need it here?
We need it everywhere. It's not just.
There is a vacancy rate that's very, very low.
So the
But
city is-
that's a separate issue.
Another separate issue is, I'm going to protest this on Thursday, by the way. The city is very unfriendly to the landlords. We have warehouses, the landlords have warehouses. 250,000 apartments.
Including tens of thousands from NYCHA. So even the city is warehousing, leaving apartments vacant.
That can be available if the city would just allow the landlords to make a living. That's the problem. I'm sure there's a lot of homeowners here, very small homeowners. You know how hard it is, right? So now we just voted, by the way, we voted in the mayor that has never been a small homeowner, never had children, never been a worker, a union worker, a teacher.
That brings me to my next question. Adams is out, right? We know this is all his doing. Funding the Brooklyn Library was his doing also. Have you guys had a discussion with Mandami?
No, because we already know that he is going to go ahead and be even worse
I don't know,
than Adams.
but he's gonna be the mayor.
He is the big one. If you heard me earlier, I said this project is 5 to 7 years away.
Yeah.
He might not be the mayor 5 years from now. We don't know who that is. It might be Bill. That
But
might
he,
be me.
he might be able to stop it or change it.
The other question you had,
He is from a community like ours, so he might be more open to versus, Adams is not from a community.
we are certainly going to be raising that with him and trying to convince him.
You're all gonna see him in committee in Albany, February, March? February. I am going to have Mayor Mamdani in front of me where I get to ask him questions, and I will. He can. I was just talking to this young lady over here, and I said, Yano Lieber came up, the chairman of the MPA came up to Albany and asked us for $65 billion over 5 years. Remember that?
Yeah.
And I asked him, that's $33 million a day. I'm pretty good at math, right? I said, $33 million a day you want to operate the MTA. I said, do you even charge anybody any fares? And if you charge everybody full fare, that's $9 million a day from 3 million riders. So you're telling me that 9 million is not enough to operate the MTA, that you need another 33 million from the state each day for the next 5 years to operate the MTA. Those are ridiculous numbers. I called for his resignation. I think you did too, Bill, I'm not sure. I called for it, I held a press conference, told him to step down. He's the highest paid official in New York State at $500,000 a year, and he can't even break even, no less turn a profit. He's losing money. He keeps digging a hole for the MTA every day that we have to pay for it. And a lot of us don't even ride the trains. We're paying for it. We're paying for it through our taxes, through congestion pricing. So the MTA, that's a pipe dream. That's a pipe dream. We need to charge people money to ride it, however little. Right? Maybe, you think if they charge $1 per ride, is everybody going to pay their fares? And the answer is no. The MTA spent, $8 million to study why people don't pay their fares. I said, give me $50, Mr. Lieber. I'll tell you why. Because you don't do anything about it. Because we don't lock people up like I used to do when I was a young officer. Anybody else?
Hello. A couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to speak with James Odo, a former city councilman. And I was concerned about, in general, I felt was the overdevelopment of this neighborhood in general. You know, old frame houses knocked down, and 3 apartments replaced with 9 apartments, and so on. And he told me at the time that the city government considers this area underdeveloped with the population. Can you talk about that?
So the way I understand it right now, it's near impossible right now to go to the Department of Buildings to get a permit to build a 1-family house in this neighborhood. Am I correct to say that?
I think it is very difficult, but
Yeah, they'll give it, right? But the
But
property
it's very-
taxes are ridiculous. You can't even build a 1-family house because they don't want it. The city doesn't want
But
it.
also, one-family houses, developers won't build, builders won't build, because they don't make enough money. And that, is the second issue, because when you build a one-family house, you want to have a price that you can make a profit on, and the builders can't make profits so easily unless the price of the house is very, very high. But, the issue with this library is not going to be a question of, you can build on that lot 6 families, 6 stories. That's the law right now. We got to make sure that they don't try to put 13 stories or 12 stories or 11 stories. And if they want to do that, what are their plans to improve the infrastructure? We don't have enough school spaces to fit 13 stories of families. We don't have enough sewer pipes to serve the needs of 13 stories of families. So it's an issue that whether you think it's overdeveloped or underdeveloped, you can't do it preserving quality of life unless you do all those facilities, those capital improvements. And they're not going to do that. It's not going to happen.
Thank you. I have a follow-up question. If we allow it to go through the normal legal process, who has to weigh in? Is it just the city, or does the state have a chance, or?
It's basically the city. It's basically the city has to approve it, the permits for it, and the opening of it. And unfortunately, and I was against these, but unfortunately, the voters just passed in the last election resolutions that basically made it very difficult to stop building these things. It basically exempted many of the requirements for building it. Now, they're saying at this point that they still are going to have to follow those regulations for this project. I don't know if they're going to say that 3 years from now or 2 years from now. They say one thing and then they change it. But whatever the regulations are, we have the power to stop it. And we're going to have to exercise that power and make sure that they listen to what we, the people, say. Because I'm going to be listening to what you say, and I'm going to be fighting as hard as I can. And I know Senator Chen is going to be listening and fighting as hard as he can. We are not going to allow it to happen unless they meet our concerns and the problems they're going to cause us if they do it.
I want to know what exactly we are at the stage. Is it that for sure that they're going to build?
No.
So
They were planning to. They're saying that they're asking people's opinions, although they really aren't asking. They're going through the motions of asking, and they're saying that they will listen to what people's opinions are, and then they will make a decision, and that the first priority of that decision is going to be, does the project substantially improve the library at New Utrecht? That they will veto anything that does not improve the conditions, the quality of the library. Now that's a good statement for them to make, but we got to make sure that they follow it, and that it does not, in following it, they do not hurt the quality of life of this neighborhood.
without a parking lot and the school is already packed as it is, and the schools can't even do the smaller size reduction right now with the mayor's, with the city demands. So school is overpacked, and the train is packed with people. Every time you go in, it's all packed. And how are we gonna get through all this and be improving?
My
quality of life
personal
for
opinion
residents
is,
here?
we're not gonna be able to do it with a 13-story building. So we have to reduce the number of families that are gonna be in that. Can we do it, with a 5 or 6-story building? Maybe, I don't know, we gotta see. But those are questions they have to answer to our satisfaction.
What is affordable housing? What is the number? How much rent is affordable?
I believe it comes to 1/3 of a family's income.
And that number actually is pretty high, right? Because to qualify for affordable housing, the income threshold is actually pretty high. So those affordable housing isn't really that affordable. It's yeah, for like a 2-bedroom is in the 2000s. Yeah, but that's not a bad thing, right? So yeah, right. And don't forget the subway station. I did mention that last time when he showed us the plan. He showed us this beautiful plan. I said, did you make any provisions for this train station over here to modify it, to accommodate the extra riders that you're gonna have? He said, no. I said, well, go back to the drawing board. Right? So, by the way, I want to take more, there's some late people came in, right? Some latecomers. Again, I'm gonna ask this question one more time, and I want to take a picture to show HPD what the neighbors think. How many people want that library to stay in the parking lot, to stay just the way it is? By a show of hands, please.
Keep them up, please. Keep them up.
That's the question. How many people, who here wants that library to stay just the way it is? We love it just the way it is.
Senator, could you verbalize again? I'm videotaping.
Oh, okay. Who here love our library and wants that library to stay just the way it is? Please raise your hand. And the parking lot. We love our neighborhood, and that's the way we like it. Thank you, everyone. So now, anybody else who would love to see that 13-story building? Please raise your hand. Who is willing to compromise on something smaller? Let's say 5 or 6 stories. Please raise your hand. With a parking lot. Yeah. Anybody else wants to speak? Hold on, coming. Can you state your name so we know who you are, ma'am? I'm sorry. I'm going to ask every speaker to just say your name.
Hi, I'm Jennifer. I've lived in the area actually my entire life. So I think that one of yes, I'm an architect. Yeah, so I'm actually an architect. I do work on affordable housing in higher end neighborhoods, I would say, or higher income neighborhoods. So I think that one of the misleading items about these diagrams that they don't show is actually what is legally allowed by rights for every site. So this is the beginning of what's called the ULERP process, which Councilman Hilton was touching upon. That was part of the vote last year, actually in November. So ULERP allows every community member to have a voice on rezoning the site. So this site is actually a part of a qualifying site, which means that it's only allowed to be up to 55 feet tall. And the presentation shows that they're trying to do buildings that are between 95 and 145 feet, which is at least double. And also it's in the greater transit zone. So what that means is that this site is actually not required to provide any parking at all. So that's something to consider. Even if they say they will, they won't have to because it's close to the train station. As many people have mentioned, there is only one train that passes by here, and we're very fortunate that we do have express buses that go into the city, but this is also not an express stop. Right? So there's just going to be an overload on the transit. And funding, like, I think it's $1 billion to try to improve the tree. I don't know when that's gonna happen. This might be a little bit of a situation of the chicken coming before the egg. And also, another concern that, Councilman Colton touched upon, touched upon was, the, spacing for schooling. So, last year there was an article in the New York Post, you know that we have free universal, pre-K 3. And actually we were listed as the worst neighborhood in New York City. In terms of the waiting list, there were 632 applicants, trying to get, I think it was, there's 232 seats, and there's 632 kids trying to get seats for the 3K program. So I just am worried that we don't have the amenities to support these kinds of buildings. And also, the previous proposal for the library, I think the cost estimate was, I don't want to misspeak, it was a little under $2 million. I think it was 1.9 million. And these buildings, conservatively, can be around $80 million. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, that's the facts.
Thank you, Jennifer.
To be looked at carefully, because even with, the invitation, there is definitely a great gap between the number of seats and the number of children who are. You can get into that. But even more so, under the new law that was passed reducing class size, there's going to be even more classrooms that are going to be necessary. And this is going to be adding to that crisis on top of it. So there's a lot of problems here. That's why if we strongly, state our concerns and our issues, I believe we can get the library to pay attention. The developers are going to build as much as they can because they make more money by doing that. But the library does have a vested interest in making sure the library is able to function, because that's their vested interest. So there may be a discrepancy here that they may not even see here, as I think you pointed out, with what the plan's saying, what the realities are, is there's a big divergence.
Yeah, and I think also another point is like growing up here, for the school built in the school yard, there were many of us that had those school trailers because there is a class size which is so large. So I'm just worried that we're just not really going further ahead with the housing, but then there might be a conversation and then these people that have been developed over the last 20 years from like multiple family condos, and it's just not really the case.
And this is a big problem.
So-
It's a big concern.
I do have a little bit of good news, right? So, a few years ago, long before I was a senator, I was just a measly PTA president and a schools volunteer of PS 112. And on New Utrecht and 72nd Street, right, they approved the zoning for a 13-story building over there to the dismay of the neighbors. We didn't like it. We protested, we fought, we argued. I'm happy to report that that particular lot, the site of the former Greenpoint Savings Bank and Capital One Savings Bank, is now owned by the New York Schools Authority, and they do have plans to build a school over there. And there is another school going on where we got the COVID shots on 14th Avenue and 63rd Street, right there, that empty lot. That building's going up right there, and that's going to be a school. So yeah, we do know there's a high demand for schools. We need schools. There's 2 schools, charter schools and Cephalo. They're sharing a school. So Success Academy and Cephalo is sharing one building. So we do know there is a huge demand. You know what I'd love to see? I would love to see a school over here. The library, right? 4 or 5 stories, 6 stories, no problem. Build a school. Build a nice school, right? I'm an advocate for education. Did anybody else want to speak? Oh, hold on. One more question from Joanne.
The parking lot, once again, isn't that, it's a question for you, like, who is in charge of it? Isn't that the Department of Transportation?
It's actually right now the library system, because they own the property. It's being used as a parking lot,
From the
but they own
DOT,
the
huh?
property.
Oh, so the library owns the
Yeah.
parking lot?
Yeah.
Doesn't seem right.
And it also should be remembered that the parking lot not only is going to affect residents, but if people, there's businesses on 18th Avenue, there's businesses on Cropsey Avenue, Bath Avenue, Benson. If the parking spots are not there, that means those businesses, small businesses that are struggling right now, are going to struggle even further. So it's a very legitimate concern, the number of parking spots. And although right now they are not legally required to put parking spots into a building when they build it, previously they were required to put a minimum number of parking spots, and basically that was given up as a concession to builders to encourage more building. But we can certainly negotiate, having parking spots in the building or some of the parking lot be left intact.
Alexandra?
Hello everyone, I'm Alexandra. I am currently a student and I frequent the library to do my research. So I would pose a question to the Senator, maybe he would know more about this. Where would the students go while, if God forbid, the renovation does start? Where would they want the students to go and study and request their study materials? Is the library going to stay open?
No, they made no provisions for the students to go anywhere else, but there are a number of other libraries in our neighborhood. There's the one over on 13th Avenue and 83rd Street. There's High Lawn Library. So I know they're out of the way. It's not local, but they made no provisions for that.
So clearly they have not, now they've left it very vague. They're saying that they will provide alternate library services, either by keeping the library open while work is going on or by finding another location. But there's nothing specific about that. And that's certainly something that has to be discussed and worked out. And that's the other issue too, because this current suggestion is that the library will only be on one floor. It may need a second floor in order to be able to continue even the functions that it has right now. So that could be an issue. There has to be improved. If this is going to be a state-of-the-art library, then they're going to have to maybe use more than one floor.
You have a comment from Vincent?
Assemblyman, you mentioned earlier the merchants have been kind of locked out of this process. Because they benefit from people parking and then people going into the businesses. Do they have any rights or any, because the meeting we had 2 weeks ago just totally excluded their input.
I think that merchants certainly should be given input, and we have to make sure that happens. One of the things we did when we fought a homeless shelter on Bath Avenue and Kings Highway, and in the fight now on 86th Street, we won the first two, and we're doing well in this last one because we involved the merchants. The merchants realized that if those buildings were opened up as a homeless shelter, that their businesses would be seriously hurt. And so we have to reach out to the merchants, along 18th Avenue, along Bath Avenue, along 86th Street, and let them know that this is happening. We can organize an effective voice to make our voices heard, but we have to do it, and that's why we're starting now, getting your opinions. This is a project may not come to an end for 4 or 5 years, but we have to start right away mobilizing people, not to stop it initially, because at this point there's nothing to stop, but to make sure they come up with something we can accept. And if they don't come up with something we can accept, then we're going to have to stop it. And they have to know that.
Thank you, Will. Bill? Over here. My name's Kwan. I'm trying to figure out what the tallest building is in that area. I feel like Bensonhurst Rehabilitation Center is about 8 stories tall, right? So I feel 85 feet, right? So I feel like 8 stories is not that bad, as long as it's like, we have prior building there that's just as tall, right? My thing is, everything that Jennifer mentioned, and everything that 18th Avenue is already crowded. This is like with remote work in this environment. When I go back to work, I don't think 18th Avenue is going to survive the onslaught of all these people is going to be there. But my thing is, 150 families, maybe 90 families, will probably help the neighborhood businesses. It's a very walkable neighborhood. I don't remember last time I needed parking. I just walk around, right? And to integrate these new families, I think the plan should include a loitering place, some kind of green space for the community to get in and for them to integrate as a community. One final thing is, if the library is not funded now, what makes them think they're going to get funded after this? They're going to sell their land? Are they collecting rent on it? What additional funding are they going to
They're
get?
probably going to try to work out an agreement with the developer.
They're probably going to try to work out an agreement with the developer whereby the developer will support in some way the library. But again, there's a lot of vague promises and statements. We don't know the details, and we have to know those details before we're going to accept such a thing coming into the neighborhood. And infrastructure needs, school needs, transportation needs, parking needs. These are all very valid issues. And yes, we can discuss with them putting some green features into this, a parkland, some parks in there, something for the children. We need to discuss that, and that has to be made clear before this community is going to sign off on anything like that. Yes, so these things have to be considered. So we're going to be talking about that as this thing goes along, but we're going to have to make sure that all these things that you're raising, are put on the record and are going to be demanded answers to before a plan is finalized and accepted by us. And if they can't come up with the answers, then our ultimate course of resource is to oppose the plan and maybe delay it even further.
Good evening. Hello, good evening, everyone. Hi, good evening, everyone. I've been living in this community for 45 years. Long time. I used this library and like this library very good. The staff members very friendly. I said, I want this book, they give to me right away. I don't have to wait so long. Very good. How about the women now? How it is? Don't have to do anything, change anything. The community member told me that I don't even know they're going to build a high building over there. How? Why? They don't even know what's going on. They asked me, I said, I don't want to give you the wrong information. I don't know. So far, the developer, the city government, never tell us what to do, what's going on. It's possible, there's a Colton senator, it's in the future, short future, the developer, the city government, have a whole more community meeting. Let us to talk, community. Let us know what's going on. This lady mentioned it before. I used to come to this library. I turned around and around. I couldn't even find a parking space. I'm telling you the truth. If you put 390 homes here in the future, how can you park your car? You turn around and finally you have to go home. Okay? Don't come here. Okay. In the future, I hope Mr. Colton and Senator set a committee or something for a petition to the developer, to the city government. We don't want this building here. Please look for another location. Thank you very much.
This is kind of like the start of doing that, because we as a community, they say they're gonna listen to us, but they have to understand that if they don't listen to us, we are not gonna support the project. We're gonna oppose it. Now, what that means and how much pressure we're gonna have to, raise, we'll find that out, in the future. But right now, from the very beginning, we're making it clear that we are gonna have a voice in this, and we're not gonna simply have everybody broken up into 8 tables and talk quietly with city officials, city workers. We are gonna express our views. This is too important to allow it to just be quietly put through with a lot of question marks. Because that's what there are right now, a lot of question marks. And that's not acceptable. Hopefully they will, and hopefully the library will play a big role in it. Now, I will say that there are some major problems with the library according to what they're saying. They're saying that there's asbestos possibly in it. They're saying there's a problem with the roof and maybe the boiler. So they claim that there's serious issues and they don't have the money to repair them. So supposedly that's, why they're choosing this location. But they have to make sure they meet the concerns of all the people in the community. We are not going to accept something that's going to mean that police response time is going to go up because there's a lot more people. We're not going to accept something that means we're going to have leaks in our basements because the sewer lines are not adequate to meet the additional people. We're not going to have situations where the schools, our children don't have seats because there's a higher capacity because of this project and other projects that they're building. So we are going to speak up very clearly, and I am going to make sure that I completely, and Senator Chan is going to make sure that he completely lets everybody know what the constituents in this area are worried about, and that those issues must be addressed if they expect any support from this kind of a proposal.
When we build in these affordable housings, like right now, we are throwing in questions, right? Let's say you need to build a 6-story or whatever number of stories that you need to get on. But affordable housing, do the local residents get a priority into the pool? Do they get to, let's say my daughter is going to be living on her own in 5 years, and then will she be able to move into these apartments? And my disabled parents who can't climb the stairs, will they be able to get into this elevator building and being
They
that they
will
already
say
exist in
yes,
residence?
but the real answer is no.
Okay, so I have the answer to that question. There was a time when guys like me and guys like Bill said, you know what? Great, we need housing in our neighborhood. We have a lot of people here. There's a lot of people that need affordable housing, right? And so why don't you give priority to the people that are already here in the neighborhood, that already fit into the neighborhood, that have their friends and family in the neighborhood. They said, okay, we'll make it 25% preference. 25% of the apartments will go to the people of, not the district, but that particular zip code. And then somewhere along the way, somebody sued, and the city lost that one, and it's down to 12%? 12% preference out of 10 apartments, out of 12 apartments, there'll be one that's given preference to the people living in the zip code, and that's just not fair. I would love it. I would, you know what? If they say, hey, you know what, let's give preference to the people that live in this zip code, I would say, great, you know what, let's build it. Right? People love it, because our friends, our family, ourselves, we can live in those apartments. We need them. They're nice apartments. Right? But, the problem is they're bringing in people from everywhere else except here. So we have another question here from John.
I'm going back to the libraries now. There is a library, I don't know if you know of it, on 64th Street. 60th Street and 17th Avenue. You know that?
Yes. My daughter's
Okay.
still there.
All right. Well, it's still under renovation over a year now, and I don't know what's going on. I asked them, they don't know. They don't know.
And it was
People,
renovated not long ago, before that, like not more than a decade ago. Yeah.
but I lived near there all my life, and I don't know what's going on. I wish they would reopen, but I don't know. Maybe you might know something about it.
Okay, Bill, do you know anything about that? That library is actually not in my district, but I know from living over there, from going to and from work all the time through there, I know that library, in the last 35 years that I've been living on Bay Ridge Avenue, has been renovated about 100 times.
And it's also not in my district, but I do know that these renovations can go on for a long, long time because they start doing something and then they discover another problem, and now the contractor says, I wasn't hired to deal with that problem, or you got asbestos, you got to hire a contractor, and it goes on and on. The New Utrecht Library also, a few years ago, was supposed to be renovated. And they had problems again with the contractor because they found things that they said is not my responsibility and you haven't hired me to fix that. So this happens very often in these contracts. And what makes it so bad is that children, whether they be college graduate students, undergraduate, high school students, elementary grade students, depend upon the library for their learning. And when it gets closed because of a construction, it's a big problem. So we have to, we have to we got to know how long this thing is going to go on. Exactly.
And I'll tell you right now, as a PTA president, I worked in 2 schools over here. IS 187, Krista McCullough, and PS 112. Both my daughters attended both schools, and I was a volunteer in both schools over a period of 10 years. And I'm telling you right now, I know for a fact that when they say, we're going to point the bricks in this building, in this school, and it's going to last 2 years, you can count on 4. That's how it works. Anybody else? Ken Sen, the PTA president of McKinley Junior High School.
Chief, I think a lot of people attended the last meeting at the library, and I was there. And I asked a question, I answered the question, right? So not really a question, but I am going to imagine that you own the plot of land. You own that land. The land is owned by the city. I'm the developer. I want to come to you and say, Steve, how about this really big deal? You're going to transfer that land to me for maybe $0, $10, way, way less than market value. I'm going to build a brand new building there. I'm going to put a brand new library there. And you're going to take the library, you have to pay me rent. Does it make sense? I own the building now. I asked that question, they couldn't answer.
They couldn't answer.
No.
That's in fact what's happening.
Right. So the city is effectively giving away the entire plot of land to the developer for free, $0, right? And I will build a building there, I give you a new library, but you still have to pay me rent. If you own that land, will you do that? No way. You gotta be really stupid to do that.
We have to make sure that does not happen. That in any kind of a presentation they make, they have to submit it to the community, and that question has to be answered before we decide whether we're going to support it.
The only thing that I got out of that meeting was I was under the impression that HPD was actually going to take control of that land.
It's possible, that might be the plan.
HPD.
For the developer is also possible. That's where we have to be wary of and make sure it's not the developer taking ownership. Because if you're like owner of the property, they may decide to raise the rent.
Exactly.
And the library may decide to move out.
Right. We don't want to give away that plot of land because we are all citizens here, right? We are in taxes. We are part of the city, and I am a very, very small owner of that land too. I have a say, right? It's owned by the city. Now, my second question, next question that I have is looking at the picture that they present to us. If you are going to put, 400 families in here, right? Average household 4 to 5 per family, we're talking 2,000 people. If you're gonna ask me, hey Ken, do you want to share your library for 2,000 people? I said, hell no. Not every day. 10 maybe. Not every day. 2,000? No way. And they can be friends.
You know, there's always the chance that, this is the old bait and switch over. By the way, I speak fluent Cantonese. If any one of our Cantonese speaking neighbors would like to speak in Cantonese, I'd be more than happy to talk to you, either in private or openly. But by the way, you see that it says 290 to 390 homes? 400 homes, right? There's a chance they could come to you and say, hey, guess what? We're only going to build 200 homes now in hopes of you saying, yay, great. There's always that chance. Don't forget that too, okay? So everybody should have a sense of readiness at what they're going to throw at us next, because me and Bill both told them to go back to the drawing board. Give us something else.
Oh, I have another question. Because I think the whole system of affordable is not very fair, because if you somehow hit the lottery, you really hit the jackpot, because you own that apartment for generations, right? If I have 2 kids, I have 3 kids, I'm gonna raise my kids, they're gonna go to college, I eventually will go CTCs. They all make their own living, but they can still keep their apartment. They can keep it just because they can keep it. It's not fair for those other people who could really use the apartment, right? So during the last meeting, I asked for, make sure you guys have retention, not forever. Nobody owns anything forever.
And then while, let's say, a $2,000 rent may seem a lot right now, or $3,000 rent, right? That's what people were saying in 1954 when they incorporated rent control. $50 for the apartment. A lot of people were making $50 a week back then. Bus drivers was making about $60 a week, and he would rent an apartment for $50 a week, and that was 1 week of pay for his apartment. But it never went up. And it went up very little, and his grandsons are still paying $162 a week, a month for that apartment. So $2,000, 50 years from now, right? They're still paying $2,000, or maybe $2,200, $2,300 for that apartment. This is the rent control of the future years, my friends. Think about that for a second, right? So now on that note, right, I just wanted to mention something else. The City Council is slotted to vote on a law on Thursday that basically controls who you are allowed to sell your home to. Did you guys hear about that? COPA? If you have a 3-family or above, when you put your house on the market, who has dibs on it, Bill? HPD, not designated nonprofit organizations. So let's say your asking price is $2 million. You can't even sell it to your son for $2 million if a nonprofit organization, which we didn't designate, they're just going to pick them, handpick them. If that organization says, yeah, no, we want that house first, they get first dibs. Are we in the feudal system of England where you're trying to marry a daughter to somebody that she loves, and then some nobleman gets first dibs on your daughter? Is that what this society is coming to? This Thursday, they're about to vote on that. I am going to be in front of 250 Broadway at 11 a.m. at a press conference with a bunch of other senators, with a bunch of other homeowners to protest this new law. And by the way, this new law, just even if they vote to pass it, New York State real estate law is exactly that, New York State real estate law. It has to go through Assembly and it has to go through Senate. And you can bet that I'm going to fight it with all my might in the Senate. We have the freedom to sell our house to who we want to sell it to, not first dibs.
And also, even if it were to pass, which I don't think it'll pass the legislature, the senator and I definitely are outright opposed to it. But even if it passed, then the courts may overturn it, because there is, property rights. You can't have your property rights limited that way. People bought houses because they intended to give it to their children.
Right, so if you have a 3-family,
It's a serious constitutional issue.
you want to sell it to your cousin loves your house and they can afford it. You're asking $1 million. But nonprofit, or HPD, or the schools authority says, wait a minute, we want that house, it's ours, $1 million, here you go, goodbye. your cousin can't even buy your house. That's ridiculous. You know how ridiculous that sounds? Does that sound ridiculous to you? Who thinks that sounds ridiculous? Raise your hands, please. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to be in front of 250 Broadway, 11 a.m. Thursday, followed by a protest in City Hall Park, 2 p.m. Thursday. Please join me if you have the time. I'll be out there with about 500 other people. It's going to be on my social media. I welcome the company. Anybody else want to speak?
So the Brooklyn Library says they own this property, right? Who runs this? Who's in charge of this Brooklyn Library system? The people?
No.
Politicians? I mean,
This board.
okay, who controls the board? Who appoints board
They have a
members?
board that they appoint.
Who appoints? You say
I
they.
think basically the board.
Board themselves?
I think it's a quasi authority. It's a quasi governmental
I
authority.
have met the chair of the board, right? I can't remember her name. And I do know there is a board that controls the library. And I don't know what comes in.
And they're probably rich people, right?
Definitely rich people.
So, I mean, you know, as a taxpayer, I'm thinking, oh, we own the library, it's ours. I don't feel like it's ours. I don't feel like we're making any decision. I feel powerless. The more I hear you guys talk, I mean, I feel like David, and they are Goliath. How do I fight?
I feel like David.
Okay, so I myself feel like David, battling these people all the time.
We fight by making our, because they're in this community, and we are going to determine what will help us and hurt us. Libraries are good, we want them. But if you start putting huge buildings where there's not enough, infrastructure to support it, where there's not enough schools to meet the capacity, that affects us, and we are going to speak up and demand that we be listened to.
Let's just say the repairs for this library is $5 million. So they're getting $5 million, right? The developer is going to build something that's $100 million. How much money are they going to make on that? I'll give $5 million. That's like a tip. And they're going to build this building and make more money than that. They could recoup it. So that's what I'm saying. Who is making these decisions? I'm like, oh, if I'm charging the library system, for him it's $5 million for free because I don't have to come out of my budget, right? So that's why I don't feel like I have the power because board controls this public libraries. I don't know do you know who the board? I mean, that's what I'm saying, right? So I feel powerless. That's what I'm saying. I just feel powerless. I don't feel like I feel scared. I feel scared. I feel scared that I live in this community. I don't have a voice, right? And the people that represent me are fighting for me. But ultimately, I feel like I'm going to lose.
I believe that when people unite together and when they fight on something that is so important to them because it affects your lives, your businesses, your children, we have the power to stop this nameless board. We can make our voices heard. And I found, that in fight after fight, they took away the B-64 bus. We fought it. Everyone said to me, you can't win this fight. We won the fight, and they extended it all the way, what they had canceled, when they had canceled it.
We also won the fight over New Utrecht and 72nd, where the Capital One Bank was. Right? It's not going to be a good historic building. But you know what? Win or lose, we're not going down without a fight. That's why you guys put me in Albany, right? To speak for you. Don't call me a politician, because I don't believe politicians either. Nobody wants to hear from one. I'm your neighbor here. I'm here 50 years. Bensonhurst, Bay Ridge. I grew up here. I know Brooklyn. Our neighborhood has soul. We love it. I love it. I love New York City, just the way it is. I love Chinatown. I worked over there as a kid. And I know what they're doing in Chinatown too. It doesn't look like the Chinatown that I walked in as a 13-year-old going to work in a sweatshop. Right? But I love that. I miss that, believe it or not. Right? And I don't want to miss my neighborhood right here.
We have a city council person for this district, right?
Yeah, Avila.
Where is she?
She's 100% pro this. Okay. By the way, she didn't win this area right here, this election district. It's called gerrymandering, right? She won big in Red Hook. And what are the people in Red Hook? They got nothing to do with our neighborhood here. They don't live here. We're very, it should be bunched together. It should be a very simple square on the map. This neighborhood wants this person as a city councilman. My district shouldn't look like a rabbit. I go all the way up to Greenwood Cemetery in Kensington. Those neighbors' sentiments are far different than our neighbors' sentiments over here, but they are my constituents. I am going to express their concerns as well, but not over here. What goes on in that corner of my district is far different than this corner of my district. Over there, they might love this, and I'll say, okay, all right, let's go with it. Right? Over here, we don't, and I'm going to fight for it.
I'm not familiar with politics, but I understand the city council has a lot of power.
In fact, they've been taking a little bit of power away from them in regards to rezoning. It used to be they respected the opinion of the city council member right here. They say, no, I don't want this rezoned. They would say, okay, all right, we're not going to rezone. Now it goes through the citywide planning commission, and they actually have the final say over that. Am I correct to say that? And the borough president. And so, unfortunately, the city councilwoman over here, I believe, is for this project. You guys got to contact her and tell her how you feel.
Because they approve our budget, right, for the whole city.
They do, and we give us in the Senate and the Assembly, New York City's mayor will come up, again, it's called Tin Cup Tuesday. They're going to let us know how much money New York City needs for the year. Our governor is probably going to propose a budget. Last year was $254 billion for the whole state, and New York City was allotted about $120 billion, about half of it. And this year, I'm projecting that Mondani's going to come up and ask for $140, $150 billion because we need to give everybody free stuff. Right? And my answer is, okay, all right, fine. You know what? I live here. I'm in the city's one committee. I'm more than happy to give you that money because it's my city. But what are you doing with that money? Are you going to put it in foundation aid? Are you going to put it in the schools? Are you going to help our elderly? Are you going to help our needy, our homeless veterans? Are you going to help those people first? Are you going to support our police? Or are you going to cut their budget some more, take more stuff away from them and build more injection sites? Is that what they call it? Injection sites? Right? What about these spec stations? Right? They're going up all over the city. I don't want this toxic battery next to my house. Do you? I don't. Right? So there's a lot in between now and the time the budget is passed. And there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of questions that I have for our new mayor, and I'm sure Bill does too. We work pretty well as a team up in Albany. We sit in the same committee, the city's one committee. And after I grill him for 5 minutes, Bill takes over and he continues while I leave off. That's what we did to Adams last time. I attacked him on this homeless shelter right here. Why 20 feet away from that subway station? And then he attacked the finances of it. Like, who's getting paid for this? And then Assemblyman Chang will come along and attack him on something else in relations to that. So these guys really break a sweat when they answer us in Albany.
But the reason why they work up a sweat is because of you. I believe the power is in you. You haven't exercised it all the time. But when you come together and united and fight on something because it's really important to you and your family and to this neighborhood, you can win those fights. We haven't done it enough, but we are going to continue to do it in this issue and many other issues. If you believe that you can win, we can win because you have the power. They get frightened when they see people in a community come together and start exercising their power. They like to, have everything quiet and nobody know what's going on. We're going to make sure you know what's going on, and we're going to lead you in the fight to make sure that you win those issues that affect you and your family. And that's what makes New York City and New York State great. And when we stop doing that, then the city and the state start to decline. We got to turn that pattern around. And we got to make sure that we inform our constituents what's really happening, and then together lead you in fighting to make sure what is going wrong stops. And we have the power to do it. But you have all got to participate in that and unite together. They like it when they get people to fight each other.
You know, I don't know if you guys know this, right? When you guys sent me to Albany to represent you, something very special happened. When you voted me into office, you overturned one-party rule in New York State. You overturned the supermajority that the Democrats had in the New York State Senate. So now they cannot veto, they cannot override the governor's vetoes. So when a bill passes Senate and it passes Assembly and it gets to the governor, let's say it's a nonsense bill and the governor says, no, I'm not signing this. Where formally they could say, well, you know what, we got 2/3 majority in the Senate, we're gonna override your veto. You can't say no. You can't do that anymore, it's because of you. It's because of you. You guys put me in there, you broke up that supermajority. So that's one thing that you guys did right. And I'll give you a little funny thing. When we stalled on the budget last year, we couldn't agree on it for 2 months, right? It was delayed by how many, 52 days, 42 days?
Almost 2 months.
And the legislators weren't getting paid, me included. And then they kind of felt, yeah, hey, how about we pass extend the bill to pay ourselves for the 3 paychecks that we were missing? And I'm like, I'm not going for that. I don't want to get paid. That's your problem. So they couldn't pass that bill, right? And the governor said, no, you're not getting paid until you pass this budget. And they can't overrule her veto, and it's because of me. So I never thought I'd be so happy about not getting paid. And you did it. You did it. You did that to the politicians. We didn't get paid for 3 paychecks because of you. And I'm kind of happy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay, question here.
I just want to know, is there any updates on the May 14th Street battery station thing?
Okay, so there's a stop work order on that. Am I correct to say that, Bill?
Yeah,
They kind of broke the foundation of the house next to it. So now, okay, there's no contract for a battery station on May 14th. Let's get that clear, all right? It is the site owner's responsibility to get that site ready for a battery, a big, giant lithium battery. As long as they can't get ready, there's no contract. So now, it's not ready, right? And there's a stop work order. They did something to the foundation of the house adjacent to the lot, and they weren't supposed to be working on it. And that's going to delay it by, as far as I've seen these things before, it delays it by probably like a year.
Yeah, they basically had a demolition permit which said they could not use these big heavy machines to knock the place down. And it was a gas station. And what they did is they brought this machinery in and it cracked the foundation, cracked the wall of the neighboring building. And so there was a stop work order. I was down there, we spoke with the building department, and they have to now come up with a plan to repair the building that they damaged, and then how to safely demolish the gas station. And we're also challenging whether or not they did a proper removal of the gas tanks. They claim they did, but people in the neighborhood tell me they didn't see any gas tanks being taken out, because the gas station has tanks way in the ground, and whether or not they dealt with the contamination. Because I don't know, I'm not an engineer, but to me, I would be very uncomfortable with having huge batteries being charged right above a rotting gas tank. I just don't think that is safe at all. So they're going to have to then go to the fire department after they clear up the damage they did with the building department. They're going to have to go and comply with the regulations of the fire department. And they have to be, and they're pretty stringent in New York State regarding putting charging stations like that. So I don't think it's going to happen soon, but that's another fight that we may have to fight on. And we're going to do it. If we have to, we'll fight on it.
Thank you for putting your trust in us, by the way. Like I said, I don't believe politicians, and neither should you. Anything else? Anybody else? Oh wait, hold on for a second. Jennifer back here.
I just also want to add that during the last meeting that we had and during the roundtables, they actually mentioned that they were looking for a non-profit to be running that site, which I don't remember the name of it was, so I don't believe it was a private developer. But the other thing that I just wanted wanted to mention is that they also said that if they had to build the site as of right, which is the 55 feet, that it wouldn't be a viable option. So that's just also something to keep in mind about why they're asking it to be redeveloped into the size. And I know a lot of people are talking about the affordable housing aspect, but in the questionnaire that was sent over, there were 4 options. Affordable housing was only one of them. The others were senior housing, homeless shelter, and domestic violence shelters. So those were 4 options that you had to choose in the questionnaire. And they also, there was questions about, someone had a question about the brackets. You were actually able to select the income of the affordable housing component. So this was all part of their vote, and it's still going on, and I received the questionnaire actually today.
Make sure you fill out that questionnaire.
It's really important that you fill it out. And also, I just want to talk about the sanctity of the vote, because last time there were people that were not part of the community board or in the zip code that were voting, which is a little bit of a concern because there were people that were bidding.
Professional agitators. I personally witnessed gift cards being handed out outside that town hall to people who was going in there as components for the casino. It didn't work. Me and Senator Sam Sutton stated our voices, and okay. Long story short, the casino is dead over there. Right? It was a standalone casino. It wasn't good. I didn't like what I saw. I said, give me something else. Just like what we did, I told them, give us something else. I'm not a genius. Right? I'm not a developer or an architect or anything like that. Right? But I told them, give me something else. Somebody's got to have a better idea. And that could come from you or them. Anybody else in between.
Yeah, so while, of course, I believe everyone should have a vote, I just don't think that people that are going to be working on the project should be able to vote.
In case you didn't hear Jennifer, Jennifer said she doesn't believe that anybody who doesn't live in the community, in the area, should not have a vote in what happens to that library. And it makes perfect sense. Anybody else? Okay. Maybe Ken has an idea. Build another school? I love schools. You guys love schools? I do.
Steve, we definitely need new schools because I talked to many parents and I looked at a lot of stats. Of the middle schools around here, 201, 259, 187, Charlotte, all of the schools are over 60% exempt from the reduced class. What does it mean? It means that the majority of the classes are not 23 students per class. Well, for us to do that, to meet that criteria is to get rid of a lot of students. Where are they going to go? Exactly. So you have kids growing up, you have grandkids coming up. They are not going to go to the school next year because we already have 65%, 69% exempt. Right? You cannot, a student is already in the school, you can't get rid of them. But the new one, we could. We just don't admit you. Right? So imagine you have another 2,000 people coming here, what will happen? Well, my question goes back to this project here, right? During the last meeting, I asked a simple question on sustainability. How do they sustain on 100% affordable housing complex? If they are paying 30% of their income, it's not possible to maintain it. Because the 30% of their income includes everything. You can leave the heat on all day, you leave the water on all day, the light on all day, everything is included. How do you sustain? You can't sustain. So if they can sustain, then who's going to be bailing them out? I guess we will have to, right? We are neighbors. Our property taxes may come up. And also I want to ask for maybe an economic study, right? By adding 2,000 people to our neighborhood. When I was a kid, $1 I could buy 10 oranges. Today I have to pay $2 for one orange. Same tree. from Florida, same tree. $2 per orange. When I was a kid, 10 oranges for $1. So what I'm trying to say, is when you have a lot of people buying one particular item, if you're the store owner, you will be stupid not to raise the price. You will have to raise the price because you want to control it. Because people will buy it. You raise the price, people will buy it. You keep raising the price. How I know? When my kid was young, I sent him to potty prep for summer school. And every single year they jack up the price. I asked them, why are you guys raising the price? It's the same facility, same teachers. You know what they told me? Because we could. I raised the price, you should come back, right? I said, and then I gave it a little, I left, I never come back. So that's how I learned, right? More people coming into the neighborhood, prices for every single item will go up, I can guarantee you that. So I want to ask for a study. What impact does it have on us by injecting 2,000 people into our neighborhood? How can they sustain financially to maintain the building? What happens when people don't pay rent? You can kick them out nowadays, right? I could. I have known homeowners for 2 years trying to evict, not possible. 2 years. So if some of the tenants are not paying rent, what will happen to the building? What will happen to the brand new library? I don't know. These are questions that I want answers for. Thank you, Steve.
That's a great perspective on that. All right, if there's a landlord to that building, the landlord would have to shell out to maintain that building. Simple as that. So we got to find out who the landlord is. In this case, the landlord is HPD. Am I correct? Yes. Yeah. It's supposed to be HPD. That's what I understand. It could be a private developer, in which case he would be the landlord. If maintenance is not paid, if rent is not paid, the developer is on the hook for the money. But make no mistake, these are not poor people living here. They're not poor. They're more like middle-class families. They call it affordable housing. And so, if you're single and you make $90,000 a year, your rent is what? 1/3 of that, right? It's $30,000 a year. That comes out to about $2,500. Who's a genius in math? Who said that? Is it about $2,500? So it's not cheap. It's not cheap. So there are other affordable housings that are cheaper. I'm not sure how that works, but not this one. We need all kinds of schools.
I don't know how affordable housing works. If you qualify, because certain buildings has a minimum income requirements, and if you qualify this year, you'll meet that requirement to, let's say, get into this building. But then next year, when your spouse lost a job, then you don't need to, and then he's not on, so the price of rent will come down because 1/3. So you only needed to qualify for this housing at the time you apply and get into the building. But once you got into the building, whoever's contributing to your housing income could move away, and then that becomes a low income, low rent generating building. So then would the neighborhood quality of life or neighborhood people change?
Earlier, you remember me saying that these are going to be the rent control of the future, right? So you don't know what's going to happen down the road, and these are generational, right? The next generation and the next generation, we don't know how it's going to end up. So I don't like that whole idea of this affordable housing where rents don't get raised. They want to freeze the rent and all this stuff, right? The rents do get raised, right, but very, very slightly. Right? The Rent Stabilization Association, RSA, has control of that. It's usually very low. It's like 1% a year.
But it's definitely for rent.
No, it's for rental. You might as well own it, because if you have one of those apartments, you're probably never going to move out, right? So you're going to pass it down to the next generation and so forth. It's like, that's why I say rent control, because that's what happened to our rent control apartments in New York City. You know, I know Chinatown very well. I know many people that still had it into the 2000s, you know, from 75 years ago, when their parents rented those apartments. And you know, some landlords were very grateful when the grandkids returned that apartment for them. You know, some people are, you know, noble, righteous, say, no, this is not fair. Here, have your apartment back. Right? But now there's this other thing that, you know, yeah. Yeah, down the road, if you make less, you're still in. I don't know how they recalculate your rent, if they recalculate and lower your rent, I don't know. But let's not leave out the fact that some people is going to make cash and move in at a cheap rate. That, you know, in the meantime, they're making, you know, $150,000, and on paper they're making $50,000, and they're getting a very cheap apartment. And don't forget, these apartments are nice and new too. And that's why I say offer it to our neighbors first. People of our zip code. I would like one. I would go rent one. I would go. Anything? Anybody else?
I think the key here is that we have to stay informed. Questions like being raised have to be answered before we allow this thing to be pushed through. And, you know, that is the key. The answers they give may not necessarily be totally honest. They'll tell us what they want us to hear, but we as a community have to look into this and raise our voices and make sure that the correct questions are answered. And that's the job of your elected officials to lead you in, and that's the job of everyone in the community to speak up and make sure that we're not going to accept anything other than the complete truth.
Yeah, I'll give you a recent example, a real story, and these people reached out to me for help, although they're not in my district. It's because they didn't have their own senator at the time, because their senator had resigned in Sheepshead Bay, Coyle Street. They told one set of neighbors in the back of an old building that says, hey, listen, can we use your driveway to help facilitate the building of this new building? We're building affordable housing right here between Coyle and Ford Streets on Avenue U. And the neighbor's like, okay, you know what, we could use affordable housing. Okay, we'll sign this contract to let you use our driveway to build affordable housing. When they started to build, when the day came, they refiled to build a homeless shelter. And that was the bait and switch. It was in the news. It was spoken about. I spoke about it. I went down there. They called me, right? And it's just not right. Don't lie to the people. And that's what they do all day long. The developers lied to the neighbors. So now the work is, they're reinforcing the green walls that they built right now, right? There's a lawsuit going on the easement of the driveways that the neighbors signed away, right? They suckered the neighbors into signing easements to build an affordable housing unit, but it is not an affordable housing unit. It is in fact, a 350 unit homeless shelter. And now the neighbors are very upset over there. So yeah, that could happen here, the old bait and switch, right? That's, you know, like I said, you know, I don't believe politicians.
That's what I have in my mind. They might put shelter over here. Is this coming up a shelter place here?
You can bet that me and Bill are going to be monitoring every one of these projects that's going up in my district. I don't know if you know this, but when I drive around, right, I tell the people in my office, I shoot them a text, 65th Street and Bay Parkway, there's a big empty lot about 100 by 100. Can you look that up to see what they're doing? Over on New Utrecht and 72nd, right, I know for a fact that in the last 3 years it went from a apartment building to a yeshiva, and now the school's authority own that, and they're building a school. So I do follow up. I keep looking at, you know, these large sites that I see that are empty. I monitor it. I see what's going on. I see if the application, the filing has changed. We do monitor that. So we are doing something.
And as soon as we see something like that, we're going to notify you. And that, I believe, it will be enough to put a stop to it. Because you have the power. You don't realize how much power you have. you have the power to stop something like that, because that would be totally against the interests of this community. And we're not going to permit it.
Okay, so on that note, I would like to thank everyone for participating and coming by and letting us know what you're looking for. We got you. We heard you. We know what you want, and we're gonna tell them, go back to the drawing board, right? Give us something else. Okay? Thank you.
And again, they're going to be, I'm sure they have somebody here at this meeting that's going to be recording on what is going on. And they're going to say that there was a good turnout, and they're going to think twice before they make the next move. But if they don't think twice, we are going to make sure that there will be 3 times more people at the next meeting.
So I would like for everybody to go home, talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, and inform them about what's going on, about all the possible scenarios, the bait and switch, lies that's being told or will be told. What happens, their strategy, right? Like I said, right? They said, oh, 400. Now you're scared, you don't want 400. And they come and say, oh, okay, only 100, okay? And you say, okay, great. And the next thing you know, it's a 100-unit homeless shelter, right? So yeah, so there's a lot of things down the road that they can switch up on us. We got to be careful. We got to be cognizant. So if you see anything, hear anything, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm easy to find. Have a nice evening. Thank you for coming.